I promised you a nutrition video. Here it is. This is exactly how I figured out my calories and my macros. No app, just a notebook and a free calculator. No guessing, no gimmicks. Just the actual system I use and still use today. Here's what we're covering. 4 parts. First, I'll show you how to set what I call your field Marshal plan, a real target and a real deadline, so you're not just wandering towards a vague goal. Second, I'm going to walk you through a free calculator that will tell you how many calories and how many grams of protein, fats, and carbs you need every day in order to get there. Third, I'll show you the notebook method, how I track everything by hand, meal by meal, without ever downloading an app. And fourth, I'll give you one simple assignment you can start this week, not to hit your numbers perfectly, just to start. But before any of that, stick with me, because later in this video, I'm going to be covering the 4 biggest mistakes that I've seen people make whenever they start this. Some of these I've made myself. And if you skip past this, you'll set yourself up to fail before you even get started. So don't leave. This part matters just as much as the calculator. Before you ever touch a calculator or write anything down, you need a plan. Not a vague idea, an actual plan. I call this the field Marshal plan because that's exactly what it is. You're the general and you're mapping out the whole campaign before the first shot is fired. Here's what that means in practice. Let's look at an example. Take a 45-year-old male who is 240 pounds. Now he wants to lose 40 pounds. Step 1 isn't the calorie counter. Step 1 is the timeline. A safe and sustainable rate of loss is 1 to 1.5 pounds per week. That's not me being overly conservative. That's a number I've seen hold up year after year, both in my own experience and with everyone I've coached. Go faster than that consistently, and you're much more likely to burn out, lose more muscle instead of fat, or end up right back where you started a year later. So for our example, 40 pounds at that rate, you're looking at about 5 to 6 months to get there safely. And this is the part almost everyone skips. Pick an actual date, not next summer and not sometime next year. An actual day on your calendar. If it's July right now, that means your goal date is somewhere around January. Write that down. That date is your anchor for everything else we're about to build. Once you've got your target weight and your target date, that's what feeds into the next step. Figuring out how many calories you need to take in and how many grams of protein, fat, and carbs you need every day to actually get there. That's what we're covering next. First thing, pull up your phone or your computer and search TDEE calculator. I use a free one at tdeecalculator.net. No login, no app, completely free. Click through. This is the one I've used for years. Let's build this out with a real example. Let's say you're a 45-year-old man, 240 pounds, 5'9". For activity level, I'm going to keep this simple and use sedentary. Office job, not intentionally exercising yet. Now, if that's not you, if you're already doing some structured activity, there are other options here. Light, moderate, heavy, and athlete. Pick the one that's actually true for you. Don't inflate this just to get a bigger number. But for this walkthrough, we're sticking with sedentary. Hit calculate. Here's what it gives you. The first number you see is maintenance, 2,357 calories a day. Now, this is important. This is not your cutting number. This is just what your body burns to stay exactly where you're at right now. If you stop here and start eating 2,357 calories, thinking that's your fat loss target, you won't lose a pound. This tab is for your information only. What you actually want is the tab right next to it. This is cutting, 1,857 calories a day. Notice something, 2,357 calories minus 1,857 calories is exactly 500 calories. TDEE calculator automatically builds in a 500 calorie a day deficit. For most people, that's a solid, sustainable starting point. Now, scroll down to macronutrients. This is where it breaks your calories into protein, fat, and carbs. You'll see 3 templates: moderate carb, lower carb, and higher carb. For our example, at 1,857 cutting calories, moderate carbs gets you 139 grams of protein, 72 grams of fat, and 162 grams of carbs. If you go lower carb, protein actually goes up to 186 grams, and fat goes up slightly to 82 grams, and carbs drop down to 93. And higher carbs keep protein the same at 139, drops fat down to 41, and pushes carbs up to 232. So which one do you pick? Here's what I recommend and what I do with almost everyone starting out. Go moderate carb first. Not because it's the best macro split scientifically. There's no magic between this template versus the others. It's because your first week or two on this is hard enough just building the habit of tracking. You don't also need to be white knuckling a low carb crash at the same time. Moderate carb gives you enough carbs to not feel deprived, enough protein to keep you full and hold on to muscle, and it's the easiest one to actually stick to while you're still learning the process. Once you've got a couple of weeks under your belt and tracking feels natural, that's when you can experiment. Go lower carb if you respond better to that, or higher carb if you need more fuel for training. But day one, week one, moderate carb every time. That's it. That's the whole calculation. 2 minutes, 1 free website, and you've got real numbers. Your calories and your exact grams of protein, fat, and carbs. That's your starting field Marshal plan. Now, this number, that fixed 500 calorie deficit, works for a lot of people, and figuring out exactly how to adjust it as you go, how to handle plateaus, and how to fine tune your macros over months, not just week one. That's the kind of thing I work through one-on-one with the guys inside the Strength by Discipline 24-week system. This video gives you the starting point. That program is where we dial it in for you specifically. Now you've got your numbers. This is where most people go wrong. They get the numbers, download an app, and either give up after 3 days because logging feels tedious, or they just estimate in their heads and never know if they're actually hitting their targets. Here's what I did instead, and honestly still believe in: a plain notebook. This is it. Small black notebook, blank pages. Doesn't matter what brand, doesn't matter if it's fancy. The only thing that matters is that you write in it every day. There's something about physically writing this down that reinforces the habit in a way that typing into an app just never did for me. That's just my personal experience. If you do better with an app and get the same results, I'm not going to tell you that you're doing it wrong. But if you've tried apps before and they haven't stuck, this might be the missing piece. Every morning, before I eat anything, I write my targets for the day at the top of the page. Calories, protein, fat, carbs. That's my budget for the next 24 hours. Then here's the method. Meal by meal, I subtract. Say my first meal is 5 eggs. I write down the meal and I write down the macros for that meal. Roughly 31 grams of protein, 24 grams of fat, and just 2 grams of carbs. A simple search online will give you the estimated value for any type of food. Then I subtract that from my total for the day. So if I started at 139 grams of protein and breakfast used 31, I've now got 108 grams of protein left for the rest of the day. Same thing with fat. Same thing with carbs. I do this after every single meal. By the time I get to dinner, I'm not guessing. I know exactly how much room I have left because I've been subtracting all day. If I've got 40 grams of protein and 20 grams of fat left going into my last meal, that tells me exactly what I can build that meal around. You do this every meal, every snack, all day until you close out the day. And at the end of the day, ideally, you're close to zero across the board. That's a day where you hit your targets, not by guessing, but by actually tracking. One more thing that trips people up right away. You don't need a food scale to start this. If you don't have one, or if you don't want to weigh every single thing you're about to eat, use your palm as a rough guide. A palm-sized portion of protein, roughly a fist of carbs, a thumb-sized portion of fat. It's not going to be perfect, but it's close enough to get you usable real data. And that's 100 times better than not tracking because you don't own a scale. And here's your actual assignment for week 1. Don't worry about hitting your numbers perfectly, just track. Write down what you're actually eating, subtract as you go, and see where you land by the end of the day. That's it. That's the whole job for week 1. Just learn what you're actually doing right now before you try to change anything. Before we get into the how-to, I want to cover 4 mistakes that I've seen play out over and over with clients and with myself. Because if you fall into one of these, none of the numbers we're about to go over will matter. Mistake number 1, not being realistic with your goals. I see this constantly. Someone has an event coming up, a wedding, a vacation, a class reunion, and they decide they have to lose 20 or 30 pounds in a couple of weeks because that's how much time they have before the event. That's not reasonable and it's not safe. Here's the rule I follow, and it's held up with years of experience, both with myself and with countless clients. 1 to 1.5 pounds per week. That means 20 to 50 pounds in 4 to 6 months is realistic. And more importantly, it's maintainable. We're not trying to roller coaster this and end up right back where we started a year from now. Mistake number 2, not setting an actual goal date. If you don't have a real deadline, it's not gonna happen. I've seen this play out over and over. People say by summer, or I'll start after New Year's and I'll be there by spring. That's not a deadline. That's a general direction. Pick an actual day. Put it on the calendar. A vague time frame gives you an easy out every single time things get hard. Mistake number 3, falling into the perfectionism trap with your macros. Most people watching this are not stepping on a bodybuilding stage. And if you are, this isn't the video for you. For everybody else, the goal is to get close, not perfect. Palm size estimates and rough online lookups for your meals. That's all okay. Tracking consistently is what drives results, not hitting your macros down to the gram. I've watched people, including myself, early on, quit because they felt like they weren't precise enough. Don't fall into that trap. Close every day beats perfect occasionally. Mistake number 4, getting discouraged. At some point in this process, everyone starts doubting it. The scale isn't moving the way you expected. You feel like you should be looking different by now. Here's what I tell people and what I tell myself. Don't pay attention to how you feel in that moment. Fall back on what you know. This system is grounded in actual science, not feelings. Let that be your anchor. This isn't a quick fix. It's a directional tool, a way of dialing in your fuel day after day to level up your body and your health for the long term, not just the next 4 weeks. Keep those 4 in the back of your mind as we go. Realistic goals, an actual deadline, no perfectionism, and don't quit just because the scale is quiet for a week. This is how I did it for years. Pen, paper, math I did myself, meal by meal. It worked and it still works. But today, I don't do it this way anymore. Today, I use AI as my nutrition tracking tool. I take a picture of my meal, I have a conversation about my day, and it handles the breakdown and the tracking for me. The same subtract as you go method, just automated. How that works and how you can set something like it up for yourself is exactly what the next video is about. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. I'll see you in the next one.